Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, Patty.
Hello. How's everybody today?
I hope everybody has had a great week from last Tuesday. Last Tuesday was a great show. We had Holly from the West Coast on, and that was a fun show.
That was fun. She's been so busy and
She just goes after everything. She's on the go, go, go. Well, first of all, Holly, she has her Holly's haunts. So she was sharing us about hers, and tonight we're going to have Kemmi Luquire on, which she has her Kemmi's haunts adventures. So we're going to be speaking with her. She'll be chiming in about 8 minutes from now. So yeah, I look forward to hearing about her. She's one of those people too that goes. These women in the paranormal field, which is so cool to see. Well, we had our normal week, our work week, right?
yep, it was a long one.
Absolutely. And then Friday, we got to have a little bit of fun with Monroe Historical Society. We were at the old Americana Amusement Park in LaSwordsville, Ohio property, which is now owned by the city of Monroe, which they have it as a bicentennial park. Um, it was really cool to have the entire team with us. John, Jim, Patty, and myself. And we also had some friends with us as well, helping us out, Bob and Denise from North Central Indiana, Spirit Seekers. Hats off to them. They're great. I love having them with us, helping us out. Great people. I know that. Hey, Roger. I know that him and John. He liked talking to John. Bob did, and showing him some equipment. So now John's got a list of equipment, and that investigation. First of all, let me step back. The group, we had a phenomenal group, 24 people. And Patty's a little behind because I can hear it. But anyways, the group was there, Monroe Historical Society. Thanks again for everything that you guys did for us. I hope everybody had a wonderful time. And okay, go ahead and do that. So we're going to let Patty refresh because she's lagging a little bit. But thanks again, guys, for joining. Last, Friday night, we were down at the Americana Music Park. I grew up there. It was really bringing back a lot of memories when I was there, as a child, picnics, roller coasters, Screeching Eagle, the old rides we used to ride as a kid, right? Well, the park is now Bicentennial Park. So they filled in the lake. There is still some little things there that tells you that it was an Americana, like the sky lift, where you used to get on the sky lift. That little building is still there. Some of the picnic shelters with the original picnic tables are still there. There's a archway in the back by where the old waterlog ride was. It's still there. So yeah, it was really fascinating to be there and to get that opportunity to see if we can actually speak to somebody that had passed away there. And we have found out that there was a couple people. Let me get Patty back on here. There she is.
I'm back. Hopefully it's better.
Yeah. But I did not know that there was actual cases of fatalities at Americana, from drownings in the lake to where people, fell out of the Screeching Eagle. I mean, there's so much there, and it was so cool. So we split up into teams, and we went out and exploring, and it was fun. It was interesting, to do that. And always love helping Monroe Historical Society out. Proceeds go to them. We don't charge for our services, never do. We just like the Friends Home Museum in Waynesville. I've had a great relationship with them since 2006, and it's what my passion is to help those two out, because I went to Monroe, so that of course that, and Waynesville's always been close to my heart ever since I've been involved in the paranormal. I got some good friends out there that live there that run a shop, and so it's close to me. But then Saturday morning, thank God that was an early night. Saturday morning, we had to get up early and hit the road. Patty and I, we had to be down in Pikeville, Kentucky, at the Pikeville County Library to do a presentation over paranormal, and that was fun. We had to be there by 12:31ish. We started at 1, and it went till about 3. It was only supposed to be till 2, but everybody was intrigued and had a lot of questions to ask, and a different topic, over the equipment and things going on or stories, and that's what I love. I love seeing that. So yeah, it was fun. It was awesome. Having a good time with that. Patty, what do you think? Did you have a good time?
I had a good time, and I know I told you this, but I'll share with everyone else. My favorite part about the presentation at the library Saturday was the end, and not for the reason that, but it's more because afterwards, we had some equipment displayed, and we said, hey, come on up and take a closer look and talk. And it was just much more casual. And, I'm a little more into one-on-one connections with people. So to stand there and talk in, slightly, just a little bit more intimate rather than, projecting to an entire room. And, those that were interested could stay after and chit chat. And I know I heard some stories of activity people were having. And I just love that there was a couple who they had gotten a babysitter for their 3 kids, and they were having a little afternoon date, and they were going to go have dinner. And I just really enjoyed that they came to see us for their afternoon date. And I know I had asked, hey, how did you guys hear about this? Are you just regular library goers? And they said, oh, no, we don't normally go to the library. We saw this on Facebook. So, it was fun to make that connection with people. That's what I liked.
Yeah, it was a good weekend. And then, coming home and resting, that was nice as well. Nothing too major this weekend. Other than we have to go to Dayton for something really cool that we're not going to share at the moment until we get more info on it this Saturday. So we will share. Patty will be sharing more about that after we visit. But it's going to be a fun time. And then the week after, we're going to have Teresa from Trips Paranormal out of Fort Wayne, Indiana, coming on next Tuesday to talk about Para-Unity in Peru, Indiana, which we will be set up there for next Saturday. So that'll be fun and exciting. And looking forward to it.
Yeah. The calendar has been full.
Yeah. We have been very busy lately. And, whoever, if you're here, if you're listening and you got any questions, feel free to ask in the chat room. We are monitoring those. So feel free to ask anything, if you have any questions about anything, we're here. So
yes, please don't be offended. I cannot see the Facebook comments. I've got a really bad connection over here today for some reason. And
I can't
the comments
see Facebook.
I see are,
I know I've got it set up. I need to figure this out, but I'm through Paravision's Facebook and the YouTube channel, and I know I've got my Facebook on because I can see it check marked, but I can't see my personal page comments. So don't know.
Yeah. Hold on.
Well, the cats like to bully Patty.
Every time. Every time.
So Kimmy should be chiming in here soon. Look forward to her being on. And yeah, so.
Yeah. While I was refreshing, I know you were discussing the Monroe Historical Society event. Did you happen to share anything about a really excellent Class A EVP?
No, I did not. But we did get let me bring Kimmy in. She's here.
Hey, guys.
How are you?
How are you? I'm good. How are y'all?
We are doing fantastic for this Tuesday evening.
That's awesome.
But we did capture this EVP Friday night. I've jumped on the bandwagon of getting this Sony ICD ST25 recorder. It's built early 2000s. And we were in the back where the waterlog ride used to be at the amusement park. And I'm just, asking typical questions. And I'm like, hey, before I start, can you just tell me your name? And, before I did that recording, several recordings before, we were asking questions. But when she came through as a female, clear as can be, and her name's Beth. And she said it just plain as day. But she had that, oh, it's Beth. Like, you're asking me 1,000 questions. And so yeah. So that was one of the major EVPs. I mean, it was like she just walked up through the grass and right to the recorder, she just put her face down and said, Beth. And I'm like, whoa. So yeah, so you never know who's actually right there beside you when you're doing your recordings. Standing in the dark, sitting in the dark. You don't know who's behind you. You don't know who's beside you. But it's fascinating, and that's why we do what we do, right?
Absolutely. So
Kimmy, how have you been?
Been good.
You have
been busy, but good.
You're all over the place. Your adventures everywhere. It seems like you're always somewhere.
I try to be. I try to stay busy.
And, like I was telling everyone, I was like, last week we had Holly, which Holly's haunts, and now we have Kimmy's haunts. So you guys are just like, it's females. It seems like it's cool that you guys are just so active and doing things. And it's that's so awesome.
Yes, women of the paranormal.
There you go. Go power team, right?
Yep. So Wonder Twin powers activate.
That's right. So do you want to share a little bit about you, who you are, what
Sure.
brings you into the paranormal? I know we can talk forever on that stuff, but yeah, I'll let you share.
Okay, so my name's Kemmi, and I live in Alabama, and I explore haunted places. I investigate haunted places. I also go to homes and help people that have negative hauntings as well. I absolutely love the paranormal field. I love anything ghost, anything paranormal. I'm a registered nurse. I've been a nurse for 15 years now. I work in CCU. I've worked in the emergency room. I've worked in psych. I have worked just about anywhere in nursing that you can work. I have experienced that. And doing that, I have really came to love the paranormal even more because people have so many experiences near death and when they're sick that just you can't explain it. There's no scientific determination on why these things occur. And so that has led me to even further explore the paranormal. I actually just registered. I got into the University of North Alabama for their RN to MSN program. And I'm looking at doing their nurse practitioner program there for psychiatric nurse practitioner. And I want to use that to help with research for the paranormal. And also for mental health, because I do feel that a lot of paranormal and mental health go hand in hand.
I totally agree with you. We were just sharing this at our when we did our presentation at the library in Pikeville, Kentucky last weekend. That medications. Everybody's fascinated watching the paranormal shows on TV, but medications causes a lot of problems too. So a lot of the cases that we have done in the past and the paranormal, they want to jump to it being paranormal because they're so intrigued with the shows. And then, thank God for Patty being a case, being a resident that we actually investigated years ago. And then she knows how to, ask these questions to, break the ice and with the homeowners. And, they're like, oh, I didn't, that's one of the first questions she asks is, you said you were on some medications. Do you know the side effects? And they didn't. And so Patty's like helping them look it up. And they're like, oh, no, I didn't know that. And so, that all plays in effect of the paranormal too.
Absolutely.
Because I did a case years ago, a residential, to where the man and woman were saying that there was activity in their house and they were concerned for their grandchildren to come over. Well, we get there and I just turn on the EMF detector. And as soon as I walk in the living room, it just goes high as it could go. And it shuts off. So I walk out of the room, I come back in, boom, it does it again. And I'm like, what's below us? And the gentleman says, it's my basement. I was like, do you mind showing me down there? He goes, absolutely. We walk downstairs and I said, can you tell me where the breaker box is? And he goes, it's back in that corner there. So we're walking over to it and a wire brushed my right shoulder. And I'm like, what? Whoa, what's this? And I said, as I did that, I saw the EMF just go crazy. And he goes, oh, I just had a water softener there and I just pulled it out, but that is still connected to the breaker box. I'm like, oh. I said, what's above us? And he goes, our living room. And I'm like, okay. So I was like, you know what? I said, if you could do this for me, if you could get an electrician to come out, disconnect that wire from your breaker box and tell me how you feel inside your home after that. Give it a couple weeks. Call me back. If you need me, we'll be there. And so he called me, the husband, and he goes, you know what, Lee? We love watching the paranormal shows, but I feel that it was that water softener causing us to have the hallucination. When a car would drive by their front window, the light at night would cast shadows. It looked like somebody was walking down the hallway. And I said, well, do you still need me to come out? And he goes, no, but I really appreciate your help. Because he said when the electrician came in, he said, how do you know it's this wire? And he goes, well, I was straight up with them. I said, I had a paranormal team in here. And they told me. And he goes, well, that piece of equipment that they use is telling you the truth, right? So yeah, he was like, he's like, thanks a lot. And he's like, what do I owe you? I said, you don't owe us nothing.
Yeah, I actually just read an article in one of the medicine journals that talked about neuropsychiatric research and the effects of EMF on the brain. And so it said low frequency EMF actually triggered people to have experiences of people feeling watched. They would receive messages, they said, from their deceased loved ones. They would see their deceased loved ones. So it's interesting to me, is it actually something that the EMF is allowing us to tap into another frequency? Is it allowing us to see another dimension? Or is it actually changing something in the brain to make us hallucinate?
Well, and add on to that too, when the setting on my recorder is low, a low pitch. So you may be onto something there, like low frequencies may be it, because we're usually going for a high frequency, but never thought of it that way. That's wow. Because that's what I use on my recorder, and that's how I get the EVPs. It's like I've asked them so many questions on normal, and then when I switch it, they're like, okay, I'm gonna give it to you one more time.
And what actually triggered me to look into that further was I had a patient not too long ago, had to have an EEG, And I was watching during this EEG, and I asked the technician, I said, what are you measuring? Like, what are you measuring in? I know that there's some type of vibration that you're measuring, but what are you measuring? And he said electromagnetic field. And I was like, that's fascinating. Like, and so I was talking to him further about that. And I also talked to our neurologist that was following with that case. And he also was like, yes, you cannot actually see electrical changes when people hallucinate in the brain. So that was very interesting to me. Like, why would you not have an electrical change in the brain if you're hallucinating? So I feel like it could be something that's outside the body that's controlling that.
That's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you know the actual, since you're a registered nurse, what's the actual percentage of the brain that we actually use?
That I don't know.
Because it's not
I
all.
I probably know that, but I don't.
Yeah, and I thought I remember I used to know, but I think male and female's different. I think females got, I'm gonna be honest, more, they use more than us because we're always in the gutter, right? Or always this, or like, hey, I go back over here, right? But I really do think that there is a difference between male and female, and I don't know exactly if anyone knows. Please let us know what's the average, because that plays a lot of that, Plus, on top of that, your medication. Plus, we all have cell phones, so think of what it's doing to us as it's on our ear, right?
Yes. And I actually found out, talking with a neurologist, that it can cause oxidative stress on the body. Low electromagnetic field energy over long periods of time can actually affect the body. So you think about, it's negative spirits affecting the body. Can they manifest things on you, such as scratches, things like that? So is that actually through electromagnetic field energy that causes that oxidative stress? Can they manipulate that, or are they that?
That's a good point. Are they that? Wow. I didn't know we were going to get so serious tonight. Jeez.
I know. You guys are making my brain hurt. Like,
well, she went there, and I was like, okay, now my lamp over here is going.
No, I feel like I learned one time on Grey's Anatomy something about, how much of the brain people use, but I can't remember.
What? I wasn't going to say anything, but that's where I heard it from, but I don't know if that's real or not. And I didn't want to say that. I wanted Patty to.
Of course it's real. Come on. I'll just have to watch it again.
Now you want me to, you're getting me to want to watch it again. Like, see, here you go. This Bob says his brain hurts sometimes. So I think, and I really do. I think there's a test that,
female
is different from male.
Well, I think it's fascinating. I think it's fascinating that Kemmi brings that to her investigations, that knowledge. And, I can just imagine that you're over there handing out free medical advice at the same time. And, in reality, you're like, man, I'm not here for this tonight. I'm here because we've got grandma running through the living room, but I think it's fascinating to go in with that sort of knowledge and put it to good use that way too.
Well, I'm going to add, what do you think about, like, if there's a residential or a business that is near a cell phone tower?
So I think that just from the research that I've done recently, my point of view has actually changed on this. I do think that it affects the haunting. I do think it affects the people as well. But I think that it allows something or people to be able to tap into either another dimension or another frequency so that we can communicate. And I think that in certain places, it is easier to communicate to spirits, and it is easier for spirits to manifest due to the electrical activity there.
I totally agree. Debbie answered it for us. She says, Google says we use 10% of our brain.
Hey, Debbie.
Only 10%.
I know. Well, think about it.
That is low, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, here, think about everything you put in there.
Yeah, no, then I'm going to add to this. Okay. We only use 10%, but what do we actually have? Let's go like Alien. Do they have control? Everybody has a cell phone, all these cell towers.
Right.
I just get creeped out, because I'm intrigued by it. I love watching Expedition X. Josh Gates is one of my faves. And some of the stuff, man, I'm like, I never thought of it that way. But now it makes me look different when I walk outside at night, especially you down in Alabama. You got to watch out now for all these like creepers. Like,
Absolutely.
What's that swamp thing that's in Florida?
Oh, they just were talking about it the other day.
Last night we were watching it, the
The
swamp.
skunk ape.
Skunk ape, yes. Did you hear about that thing?
So yes, but here in Alabama, we have the Alabama white thing and lots of Bigfoot sightings. But they
Let
say
me
that
write
the
that down. Alabama white.
Alabama white thing.
Wow.
That's very technical.
Yes.
Yeah,
It
tell
is.
us more about that.
So they say that it is related to Bigfoot. Some people say that it's related to Bigfoot. Some people say it's an alien type creature. Some people say it's like a homunculus type. I guess I'm saying that word right. Type creature. So I have not seen an Alabama white thing. I have just heard stories of people, but it has definitely been seen. They say up in Bankhead National Forest. There have been sightings of the Alabama white thing. Actually, my husband last year, he's a hunter, and he was up in Bankhead. He was hunting, and I'm at work, and all of a sudden I get a text message, and it's an image, and it's of this Bigfoot looking footprint, and it's like three times the size of his foot, and I'm like, what? Where are you at? And he's like, I'm at Bankhead. And I'm like, well, you need to drop a pin, send me the location, and
just in case something happens.
Yes, absolutely. And so he's like, well, I'm going to look out for it. And so he never had any sightings of it, but he does have those pictures, and he's wanting to go back soon and see if he can't capture either an image or a Bigfoot himself or the Alabama white thing. Who knows what he actually, what kind of footprint that was.
Tell him to put some trail cams up and take some night vision goggles, a thermal, and camp out. Dude, if I was close, I'd go with him. I'm like, let's go. Because I would be doing like audio and
yeah, he'd be down for it.
Yeah, that would be so cool.
Hey, if y'all come down and investigate, maybe y'all can stay a couple nights and we'll go out there.
Well, we're going to next year. You got us. We're coming.
Awesome.
We're coming your way.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Listen, I'm going to be in Mobile in November, and I asked Lee to come with me, and he said no. So
how far away is that from you?
So it's about 6 hours from me. My dad lives not far from Mobile, though, so I go down there pretty frequently.
Gotcha. I was going to say, Patty can. Yep. Hello, guys. Patty could catch up with you there because we're going to Aruba at the beginning of November. So
fun.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. But I've done some Bigfoot stuff here because we have Grassman, we have Bigfoot here, Salt Fork. That's always in some of these shows, and we've had the privilege. Patty's been with us on some. We've had the privilege of. Someone wants to say hi to you, Kemmi.
Hey, Madison, how are you?
To go out with his name's Glenn Atkins. He made he got with Louisville Slugger to make a stick called the Ugly Stick, and where they beat it on the wall, because he's a Bigfoot hunter. So got to get out and with somebody that's professional at this stuff. And then Jody Cook, our friend Jody Cook, that's big in the dog man and things like that, and to actually get a call from them and say, hey, we want to use you as the audio, since you do paranormal, you're so in tuned, you're going to hear more than we are. So we did go out one time, and it was fascinating because here's Jody, sharing all the stuff that they do in the Bigfoot, and my heart's pumping a little bit because I'm like, dude. And then I'm always being the skeptic, like, well, you thought of being a deer or a squirrel, the typical things in the woods, or just a branch breaking. So we got intrigued in it, and we started doing a little bit more research on it because I like all walks of paranormal. But when we were at Salt Fork with him, me and Jim, one of my teammates, we actually go up into the hillside, and there's Jody down at the end of the hill, and he's like, "Where are you guys going?" And he's like a Bigfoot guy. And I'm like, "We're going towards the sound. I hear it through my recorder." "Oh, I don't know if you should do that." Then I look at him like, "What do you mean I shouldn't be doing that?" I was like, "Because in paranormal for ghosts, we go after the ghost."
Yes.
So
how do you expect to see it?
Exactly. So he's like, "Well, let me explain to you the size of these things. And, they can pull trees right out of the ground root and slam them the other way around into the ground." And I'm like, "And a ghost can't do that to us either. But we still go for the ghost. That's something we can't even see." So I was like, I always give him a hard time. Like, "Hey, well, we've got documentation of ghosts. Show me more documentation." I like just keep giving him a hard time, but it's fascinating to get out and to do some of those different things. Like Dogman, not far from here, 15 minutes from our house north here, sightings of Dogman where they've actually had it on history, I think, about the Dogman here. And I'm like, man, I can't imagine walking, hiking and come across that.
It's funny you brought up Dogman because I'm fixing to pretty soon plan a investigation. There was a train that crashed in Tennessee back in the early 1900s, and it was a circus train. And supposedly there was a dogman or a wolfman that escaped from the circus train, and he roams the woods of those areas. And so I'm going to go probably with my friend Debbie, who was saying the 10% of the brain.
Absolutely.
I investigate with her a lot. She knows a lot of good places. She's the one who told me about this, actually. So we're going to plan a trip and go there soon and investigate for this wolf man or this dog man.
Be careful. My brother-in-law, he's here, and he goes, take a trip to Moonville Tunnel. We did that years ago. And Moonville Tunnel is southeast Ohio. And it is a creepy vibe. You pull up, and it used to be a train tunnel, and a train used to go through there. And now there's no train rails, but as soon as you hit the tunnel and walk into the tunnel area, it's like total different change. And then as soon as you come out on the other side, it's like you're being watched. The atmosphere is totally changed. Because it was a tragic train accident. I guess 2 trains collided right there in that area years and years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So they shut it down, and it was fascinating. And then, Bob here, he goes, "Why don't Bigfoot hunters not carry protection?" Well, they do. Some of them do. They just don't, advertise it. I know Jody does because Jody was military, so I know he does. But there's so much, and we actually Jim was talking to a guy. He came up to Jim one time. It's been a few years ago, and he goes, "Jim, I know you do paranormal, but where my dad lives out in Wilmington, Ohio, we cleared out his pond. So we took out all the trees around 3/4 of the pond except the back side. And as we were on the front side of the pond taking out the trees, he goes, we're taking acres of trees out because he wanted to see a nice view from his back porch, which, oh God, that was probably 30 acres from the pond, but he wanted to see the view. But he said what he saw in the woods on the backside of the pond was not walking on the normal ground. It was actually walking through the trees, like 12 feet high, like it was just walking down a sidewalk, like tree to tree. So I'm like, so we went out there to meet him, to document his, what he was saying, the dad. He showed us. I mean, he was, being a paranormal investigator, we pick up things, what people say. And this guy, I could tell was 100% legit. Like he was so into everything he was saying. And I'm like, and it started to creep me out. Like, man, we're probably being watched right now because we're right here by the pond. And so, yes, a lot of that stuff you never think about looking up because everybody, again, they got their phone. They're looking down, look in the trees and look in the sky because there's a lot more going on days that they're starting to leak out, especially UFOs. I think there's more out there than what we know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And here Madison has something to say to you.
What is the most scared you've been while investigating? Oh,
That's a good question.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
So it's funny. I've traveled so many different places, and actually the most scared I've been is here in where I live currently in Coleman, Alabama. And it was at a house. It is known as the York Place. It's 201 Main Avenue here in town, and it has been in the papers for being haunted. You'll see faces in the window. It was actually ran by the Dixie Mafia at one time during the 60s. They had a casino there, underground casino, and was running laundering money and running drugs that has a tunnel system underneath it. It was actually built by Mr. York, and it was used to run gold. So he was a gold
digger.
repositor, and he had gold underneath his house. So he actually built the house so he could have the gold underneath his house, and he had tunnels built to another house across the street, and the tunnels went under the street, and he would smuggle the gold to the other house. And so I actually got to investigate those tunnels. I got to investigate that house. So there was a lady who actually had sold it a few years ago, and she had called a group that I was with at the time and was like, hey, I've had some strange occurrences in this house since I've owned it. It's been in the papers. Do y'all want to come investigate it before I sell it? Because I don't know if you'll be able to get back in here once I sell it. So we're like, absolutely. So we went and privately investigated it, and everybody was getting tired. It was probably about 3 o'clock in the morning, close to 3 o'clock in the morning. Several people had already even left. And so it was me and one other guy that stayed there, because I'm like, I'm not leaving just yet. I feel like something's going to happen. I feel like something's fixing to go down. And being investigators, I don't know if I feel like y'all probably get this feeling too, that like when you're fixing to get some good evidence, like it's just like, I'm not ready to leave yet. Like something, I've not got my piece of evidence that I want yet.
Or something tries to direct you to another room.
Yes.
Yeah, to distract
so something was just drawing me there. It was like, don't leave yet. Yeah. So he was in the front of the house in one of the front rooms, and I went and set up. I was walking in the foyer, and there was a staircase and the door, and I'm walking in the foyer, and all of a sudden I hear this alligator, like reptile growl coming from my right side. It was bizarre. And it got really cold in the room. And so I slowly looked to my right, and up the staircase, I see this full-bodied, hooded figure coming down the staircase. And it was like all the air in the room just was sucked out. There was pressure on my chest. I couldn't talk. I couldn't scream. It was terrifying, actually. And the only thing I knew to do at that point was to get out of that room. And so I went to my right into the other room. And as soon as I got into that other room, I could talk, I could breathe. I was screaming. He comes running in, and he's like, what is wrong with you? And I was like, there's something on that staircase. And that was wild. And he's like, you don't act like this. Like, what? And I'm like, I don't know. Something's weird here. So he's like, well, let's get our equipment. Let's go over here, set it up on the staircase. Let's record it. Sure enough, we get some great stuff over the spirit box. We get REM pod going off. And I actually had brought a bottle of holy water with me. And I set the bottle of holy water on the staircase. And I said to whoever just tried to scare me, I brought a present for you. Can you come knock this over? And it loudly over the spirit box called me a very not so nice name. I won't say it on here. But we left shortly after that. And the group that I was with at the time actually did held public events as well and sold tickets. And so we had talked the owner into allowing us to do a public event there. And I was actually on the fence about even going back because I was like, the way that pressure on my chest and I just couldn't breathe. I was like, do I even need to go back? And I was like, yeah, I need to figure out what this is. I can't let something like this scare me. I got to go. So I go back. And I'm sitting on the porch, and somebody took a picture of me and some of the other ladies that were there. And behind me in the window, you can see a hooded figure standing in the window directly behind me. And that figure is the same thing that I saw on that staircase.
Ooh.
Wow.
And, yes. And there has been so many stories about people that they see a lady and people that see a lady coming down the stairs. Lots of people have told me the story about lady coming down the stairs, and this is after I've shared this experience with people. The lady that owned the house actually felt like there was children in the house. I never experienced any children. I'm not saying that she didn't. That was just my experience. But it was terrifying, and it also is terrifying that it is right here, in my kind of a hometown here. It's not somewhere that I was expecting to see such substantial evidence.
Now, do you feel like that was human or non-human?
I'm not 100% sure. I've never had anything. I do had things try to communicate with me, such as giving me an uneasy feeling, making me nauseated. I've been scratched. I've had been touched, but I've never had anything just put pressure on my chest and make me feel like that's where it physically made me where I could not talk and couldn't scream. So that I kind of want to lead more toward a negative being, but it could have just been a human, in life that was not so nice, maybe from the Dixie Mafia, something like that. It's hard to say, whether or not it was truly something that was evil, or if it was human.
Yeah, that feeling sounds a lot like, kind of like a wide awake version of a night terror, I
Yes.
mean, at least from my experience. And that is absolutely terrifying.
Yes, and that is exactly what it felt like.
Like Bob said, those type of interactions are crazy. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because they happen when you least expect them. And I've had a few. We had one in Moundsville Penitentiary. We were walking and we were getting a story because it's like gang related. We were up in the infirmary and we were talking because I said, yeah, let's go ahead and get the tour before we start. So we go back up there and we're talking about when they had the 3 major gangs there, they would go up there. That's where they would communicate. They would get in fights just to get hurt and to be up there to talk to the higher ups and things like that. We had REM pods setting out. We had the music box set out. And there was a few of us up there. This was a night we had all the Taps family throughout the nation was together. And we're watching these things and we're hearing something on the other side of the REM pod, which was like probably 10 feet from that was a doorway that went down a stairwell, but it was wide open. And we're just like, okay, if you can do anything. So I reach down, I turn on the music box as I'm turning around to walk back to where everybody's at. It sounded like, you remember back when you were in elementary, you had the big old wooden hall pass to go to the restroom. It sounded like someone dropped one of those on the ground. And I still have the blooper recording because it's like our voices changed. All of us talking like, when you get ice cold water poured on you, that's what we sound like. What was that? I don't know. So we went looking around to investigate it. There was nothing fell, nothing on the floor. Went down the steps. Nobody was on the stairway. Nobody was even near us. It was strange. And just talking about it, I'm like, okay, that could have been a gang member, because we're talking about, I forget, I was saying one of the names of the gangs. And maybe this was one that didn't like that name, and he was like, you say it again, it's going to be more than the hall pass falling, you know. But it was weird. It was strange.
Yeah. So what's your favorite place that you have been?
My very favorite place that I have been, last year, me and my husband, we eloped in Ireland.
Wow.
And while on our honeymoon, me and him went and investigated Corcomroe Abbey in County Clare, Ireland.
Wow.
And this abbey was built in, I believe, like the 1100 time frame. And this guy had 5 people construct it. And then after it was constructed, it was the grandest abbey in the area. And he wanted it to remain that way. So he killed the 5 people that built it.
Wow.
So that they could never build another one that was any better than his.
Well, go ahead and build it. Enjoy, because you're dead after.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Yeah. So I investigated there, and I got some really good spirit box evidence. And my husband actually was flying his drone to get some drone footage, and all of a sudden had full battery. All of a sudden, his drone just falls out of the sky.
Oh no! And he's running like, oh my God, it's expensive.
Well, yes, he's like, what in the world? And I'm just like, yeah, it's manipulating some electrical stuff here. It was just a creepy vibe. But that's my very favorite place. And Ireland was absolutely beautiful. I investigated Newtown Castle as well, which was really neat. My favorite place here to investigate would probably be Octagon Hall in Kentucky.
Really?
Yes.
We have not been yet. That's on my bucket list, and we're close. We're not far.
Yeah. Yes, that is a fantastic place. Fantastic people that run that, and just really good people. And the history there is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
The antiques and the artifacts that they have, unbelievable. So I definitely recommend going there.
Yeah, that's I saw an episode. I forget who was there. A show that I was watching. I was catching up on Discovery Plus, and they were there, and hearing the tall man that I don't know if he owns it or if he just works there. Glasses, just seemed down to earth guy.
You're probably talking about Bayer.
Yes, that's it.
Yes.
That's it. Yeah, just down to earth guy. Sharing, what he's experienced, and sometimes coming in there at night, it's different for him and he doesn't really like it. And I'm like, my kind of place then. Let's go. Okay, here we go. Madison has another good question.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, I'm going to let you answer that one.
I believe that they're real. I really do.
Oh, absolutely. If you're a shaman, they believe in skinwalkers.
Yes, it's funny that you asked that question because Octagon Hall, they say that it's known as the Skinwalker Ranch of the South. So I believe they're real. I do think that there's a lot of negativity behind them. I have not encountered one that I know of. I have now Debbie, on the other hand, that I investigate with a lot. She has had what she believes an interaction with a skinwalker.
He just said she's seen
a shapeshifter. Okay, a shapeshifter.
I was going to add to that with those. I've seen those.
All right. I want to know your experience with a shapeshifter.
So I was doing an investigation years ago at this house, and it wasn't even dark. And there was a few of us, and we're like, dude, what is that? And it looked like a guy running. And I was like, he can't go nowhere else. And all of a sudden, that person that we saw, it was a bird. I mean, it went I'm like, no. And I'm like, and then the first word that came out of Jim's mouth, he was shapeshifter. And I'm like, now this land was an Indian area. There was we had a medium with us. We were out in the cornfield. It's snowing. So we're walking on this corn, that's been grinded up and cold out there. As we're standing there, after that, you could see we walked into a tribe. I mean, And she goes, and I was like, look at that. What's those people doing in the corners? She goes, those aren't people. And she started backing away and she put her hands out to it. She said, we need to back up. I'm like, what is it? She goes, those are warriors. They're protecting the camp. And I'm like, I looked at her and I said, so do you think they're really going to get us? And then you could literally hear the ice, them like somebody walking towards us. I'm like, okay, I'm listening to you. I'm backing up. I wanted to keep going. So yeah, so a lot of that, we have I know a gentleman that's a shaman, Jerome Howe. We had him on our show years ago when we did our old podcast, and he was fascinating with that stuff. But he was a medicine man and how to treat that, because I had to call him on a residential case because they saw a shapeshifter. Remember that one, Patty, where he told us what to do? He did that prayer. He did. He told us to tell him to plant trees, fruit trees, to give back to Mother Earth. And that's just simple things that from a shaman telling you that stuff that, like we tell people, well, it's your house. You need to take control of it. That's number one. And just open your mouth and say that. I know it's hard to just. I talk to myself all the time, so just do it. If you don't feel like there's someone there, just say, "Hey, that's enough." And he said the same thing about Mother Earth. He says, you got to give back to Mother Earth by planting a tree. You're bonding that peace. And it really helped them. It was fascinating. So I had a question for you that I wanted to ask. And what is dark exposure? Is that your photography?
So it's just, it's my photography. It's a hobby. I love doing photography. I don't have a whole lot of time to do photography as much as I want. Like, I wish I had a lot more time than I do between working and then ghost hunting. And so I take pictures a lot at the haunted places. I love scary stuff, anything horror movie related, that kind of stuff.
And then, walking through, I'm the same way when we're walking through an old building, and I see like an old wheelchair, the wicker style, and I bend and get a certain way to take a creepy photo because I'm like, that's creepy as hell. I want that.
Yes.
Oh, here we go. Debbie's got a question for you.
Have you ever brought anything home with you? It's funny you asked that question. So recently, me and Debbie and my husband, we went up to the Thomas House in Tennessee. And me and Debbie have been there several times. Debbie way more than me, but we've investigated several times. And she told me about this story about this bed that's in there, that it used to be owned by one of the circus members. And she said, I think there's some story behind it levitating or something. And I'm like, well, do you know the story? She's like, I can't remember all the story. And I'm like, well, why don't we just investigate that room? Because we've investigated the Thomas House so many times before. Let's like go in here and see if we get something. And sure enough, we got some great stuff over the spirit box. Got some REM pod action, and the bed itself is beautiful, absolutely just ornate and beautiful. So my husband is halfway investigating with us, but halfway watching the Alabama Georgia game. And so he's like in the room next to us. He's watching the game and he's kind of chiming in as we go, because he had promised to go with me. And
well, at least he was loyal. He was like, "Yep, I'm here, but I'm going to watch this. I can have both."
100%. I give him props for at least going and being supportive. He's always supportive of my travels and my ghost stuff. But we investigated, and I didn't think nothing else about it, So we come back home. Actually, I had talked to the guy who runs the Thomas House, and I had asked him some questions the next morning. Right after breakfast, I was just like, where did the bed come from? And he was telling me that P.T. Barnum actually owned the bed, and he had several different beds that were on the train, the circus train for Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey, and that it traveled on the train through America with the circus. It was auctioned off. A man bought the bed. He actually bought two of them to take back home to his children and his wife. And he went to work one day. He comes back from work, and she's got one of them cut up in the fireplace, burning it. And the other one she's fixing to throw in there. And he's like, whoa, 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 what are you doing? And she's like, you brought something into my home. This bed was levitating. It was shaking upstairs. There's something evil with it. I'm not having this in my home. And he's like, I'll get it out of here. So he takes it out. He contacts this antique dealer who actually used to run the Thomas house. And she acquired the bed from him and put it in the Thomas house. And so they say that they've had a rug that gets scrunched up underneath it. They've had to remove the rug because it won't stay put, even though people are not in the room. And they've also had a guest that was friends with the owner or one of the owners. And she had came down the next day and told him that her daughter kept saying her bed was shaking. So she let her get in the bed with her. And in this room, it's like an adjoining room. So there's like this small twin bed and there's this queen bed. So she got in the bed. The lady couldn't sleep because it was so cramped. So she went and got in the twin bed. She said she was awoke by this bed shaking. And she's like, I didn't believe in ghosts till this. Now I do. Something's weird with this. So I'm like, wow, that's such a great story. We got some cool evidence. Cool. Thought nothing else of it. Got home. Went to work for a couple days. Let's see, Saturday, I think it was this past Saturday night. I'm asleep. It's like 9:30, 10 o'clock. I had worked 12 hours. I was tired. Came home, went straight to bed. My husband is on the phone with my brother. They were talking about the Alabama Vanderbilt game. And all of a sudden, there's this big, like, squealing, screeching noise. Like, wakes me up. I think I'm, like, still half asleep. My husband comes in there, and he's like, hey, wake up, wake up. And I'm like, what is that noise? And he's like, that's our doorbell. And he's like, I can't get it to stop. And I was like, our doorbell? Is somebody outside? He's like, no, I've checked. There's nobody outside. And I'm like, well, why would it do that? You know, I'm sitting here thinking, and I'm like, it's, you know, something trying to contact me. Is the speaker going out? What? That's just weird. So he goes and he cuts the wire to the speaker to make it, because it will not stop going off. And it fades out. I'm like, okay, that was weird. So I'm like, I'm going to go back to bed. So I go back to bed. The next morning, I'm like, I told my husband, I said I had the weirdest dream. And he's like, are you talking about the doorbell? And I was like, yeah. He said, that wasn't a dream. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, you really cut the doorbell wire?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I go to work, and I'm at work, and I'm sitting here thinking, man, like, is something fixing to happen? Was something trying to warn me something? Like, what was this about? And then I get back home, and I told my husband, I got to figure out if something is trying to communicate with us in our home.
Sure.
He's like, I'm not about, like, no, we're drawing the line of investigating.
Yeah, he goes, not in the house, not in the house.
Yes. And so I'm like, and I usually adhere to that. Like, I'm not about doing that. But I also wanted to, know, because, I mean, obviously it's already here. So if it was something. And so I grabbed my REM pod, and I grabbed my GoPro. I set my GoPro up, and I put the REM pod underneath where the doorbell speaker comes over, like, by the door. And I said, if there's something here and you set this doorbell off or made that noise through the doorbell, can you set this REM pod off? Instantly lit up.
Wow.
I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, well, did you come with me from, like, Walmart? You know, where are you doing?
It come from?
Yeah. And I'm like, if you came from Walmart, set that REM pod off. Nothing. And so I'm like, okay, well, did you come? I do antiques as well. So I buy certain antiques at antique shops. And I'm like, if you came home with me from the antique store, or if you're attached to one of these objects that I brought home, could you set this off? Nothing. And then I'm thinking, surely not. And I was like, if you were part of the circus, can you set this REM pod off? Lit straight up. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So,
that's so weird, isn't it?
Yeah. And so I was like, okay. I said, thank you for communicating with me. However, this is my home, and I don't communicate in my home. I said, I will speak to you at a further date and time. Please respect my boundaries and my home. I've heard nothing out of it since.
That's
So
good.
yeah, it was bizarre.
I would have had to ask, like, are you the bearded woman or you? Well, you never know with the circus, right?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. So like the
Mhm.
weird freak show, right? That you never know. I've only had one bad experience. Susan, she's in the chat and she was with us. We were at Waverly Hills. And it affected everybody there. We did a reenactment to where we took a wheelchair. We had a doctor's outfit that from that time frame, a nurse's outfit from that time frame, and a gown from that time frame. And I was the patient in the wheelchair, and a guy put the suit on, the doctor suit, and his girlfriend put on the nurse's suit, and we're being filmed. At that time, we did a local paranormal show for a local TV station here. So they went with us on this investigation. And the man that was filming goes, I'm sitting in the wheelchair and I had some equipment sitting on my lap, recorder, and we're just bringing back that history. And I started doing the fake coughing, like, and tuberculosis and all that stuff. And it was like a typhoon changed in there. It was like you could hear with your own ear people coughing, people yelling for help. It was just weird. And it affected all of us to where we actually had a couple there that was newlyweds that divorced. We had someone that was there. Was with somebody. I think they passed away. I went to work the next week until like middle of the week, and I got a hold of our medium and I said, Deb, you need to help me. She was with us, and I was like, I'm not myself. I just feel like I'm in a depressed mode. I feel like something has attached itself. Well, she helped me out by doing seesaw showers, prayers, telling me to burn white candles, open windows. And now we share that information with people when there's pressure on themselves, what to do, put sea salt in your bath, put it in a washcloth, pour it down your face, suck in white light, exhale out of your mouth the dark energy. Do that 2 or 3 times with your eyes closed. She did all this stuff with me for like 45 minutes, and it really did. It helped. And yeah, there's Susan there. She said, and I remember her saying that you're opening up a can of worms when you're doing this. I wanted to break the ice because here's why I wanted to do that is you have so many people coming into those type of places 7 days a week, right? From January to Halloween. And then they stop it for their Halloween thing. People are always asking the same questions and stuff. So I wanted to do something different. And I asked the people there and she goes, yeah, good luck with that. Well, as we're doing this, we had a 2-way radio of theirs and she's down in the laundry room, the tunnel you go through to go into Waverly. That's where the base was. She called on the 2-way radio. Lee, is everything okay up there? Because all the lights in the laundry room are flickering. Like, really? And we quit. But what it did, the energy that it affected everybody in that building. So, like, people are going to say, are you going to do it again? Absolutely. I want to do it again. I want to poke the bear. I want to bring back something. A lot of times when I go and investigate, I don't want to talk about the sad things that everybody, why did you kill that person? I want to get to know that person first. Like, what did you do as a child? What was your, but also I want to bring back something. If it's a trigger object, like we use in the paranormal equipment, we use trigger objects. Why not reenact? So, yeah, I just want to be brave. I just want to see. I want to move it to the next level. We're ready for the next level. So yeah. So when we investigate next year, yeah, I'm going to take it to the next level.
Awesome.
And I got a question for you. Out of all of the equipment, I like to ask this: what is your favorite piece of equipment that you like to use?
My favorite piece of equipment actually is called the Phasma box. And
I don't think I know that box.
It's an ITC device, and it is. I have gotten some of the best evidence from there. I also enjoy using flashlight evidence as well. But my very favorite is the Phasma box.
Is that the one with the ghost box? You put it through and it generates the word. It helps.
So it's actually part of it's a computer program.
Oh, so it's sort of like the paranormal puck.
I've seen that, but I've not used the paranormal puck, so I don't.
That's what Patty wants one of those so bad, but I can't find it. Unless you want to spend thousands of dollars.
Yeah, some of this stuff is just insane how expensive it is.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Well, man, they're coming in so fast. Hold on. Madison goes, I have an object I think needs to be investigated. Also, my house.
Okay.
There you go.
Madison, I'll be in touch.
Okay, there you go. And Madison, what is the object? Is it an antique?
Yeah, and Bob's got a good point there.
Yeah, here.
Yep.
I believe you ask questions that are normal questions to a living person. True.
Absolutely.
Because we want, but I don't want to, just bring up the negative. Like, okay, if it's Bonnie and Clyde, why did you rob all those banks? I want to know. I want to get to know that person. Here, like Susan, she just says, I like to play old music to bring up feelings. That's a great thing.
Have y'all ever had happen like the spirits will talk amongst themselves and have conversations among themselves while you're there?
Oh yeah.
You're like trying to figure out what are they talking about?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like we're here. We're taking time out of our life to investigate you, and you're over here talking to your buddy.
Yes.
What's going on? Okay.
Oh.
It is. See, here we go. Let me bring it up. It is an antique. Also used for kill. Oh, wow. So in the war.
Sounds very interesting.
I'm looking at
here
these.
We go. These are coming in. The good life. Kemmi had me running from a graveyard like a girl once.
Yes, I did. Sure did.
Now you got to share that, right?
Oh gosh, this has been so many years ago. We, me and some of our friends, we went just to some local cemeteries with a spirit box, and Andy had not really had a whole lot of paranormal investigation experience at all. And we went, and some of the stuff that was coming over the spirit box, he was like, "What in the world?" So I think I definitely made a believer out of him, though.
Yep.
Don't you love those? When
Yes.
they're like, yeah, because it's like, well, I'm just here because my wife's here and she wanted me to just tag along, and I'm a skeptic. And then before you know it, Pat, we've done these public hunts where we've got this guy that he loves it now, because we were actually at Wildcat Battlefield in London, Kentucky. And what we experienced that night was just phenomenal. And now he's hooked. And I was like, so are you still skeptical? Yeah, to an extent, because he says, now I see what you guys do.
Yeah, but to be with him when he actually experienced something was so much fun.
Oh, I bet.
Because
here, look what Bob, like spirits might be paranormal investigators too.
So like they're investigating us. Is that what you mean, Bob?
Yeah, I think that's what he means, because you know what? Do you ever feel this when you're doing audio? Like, being an empath, I feel like they know what I'm going to say before I say it.
Yes. They almost answer your question before you get done asking the question.
So if I have two different REM pods, I've figured this out, and I've been starting to figure this, doing these little tests. Like I'll have the original REM pod here, and then I'll have one over here that's not the original, and I'll say left or right in my head. But as I won't say it, but I'll say, would you just light up on these EMFs? And as soon as I say that, I say left or right. And sure enough, it will. I'm like, okay, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, he said we were kind of dating. I tried to be brave and epic. Oh, here you go. He said for sure. Bob said for sure. So yeah, so it is. I mean, I feel that they they know what we're going to say before it happens. And I think even when we pull in, they're looking out the windows and they're like, here we go again. And, I tell people, investigate the corners, because think of somebody coming into your house and you're scared because this piece of equipment is something new. It's like space related to them, because if it's 1800s, early 1900s, they don't know what this is.
Yes.
They're going to be scared. They're going to hide in places that you're not going to go, especially if it's a child. So I was like, you got to investigate all areas of the home. So, yeah. So we've actually talked way over your time. If you want to keep talking for a little bit, just let me know when.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We can keep chatting.
We have no time, so I was like, just letting you know. I know it's 9:11, so
no, I'm good. It's actually only 8:11 here, so
yeah. Because I was gonna say you're in Central Time, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Do y'all find that when y'all go investigating lesser known places that y'all get more activity?
Because it's not been tampered so much. People coming in and out. And this, have you ever heard of this? Have you ever heard of the Philip experiment?
I don't think so.
Philip experiment was a college out in California. Professor, it was in the 70s, where they wanted to see if stories can grow. So what they did is they had this old farmhouse, and a couple professors went in and they established a story behind this house. There was no true story. They just made up a story and they built this story. Then they started bringing in the students and they started telling them these stories. And these stories grew over the few semesters from each student. And now, that house is still there, and it's supposed to be one of the most haunted houses in the West. I have to look it up and share it. But the stories grow and grow and grow. And say I come in tonight, tomorrow you and Patty come in, and your story's you're going to take that story and you put more to it, so where it's like the Philip experiment, the story grows. To where now they built this guy. So this guy that actually lived there, his name was Philip. So now Philip is actually a very intelligent spirit that when people go in, he's answering questions. So it's just energy building energy that stayed in the home because it's saturated in the wood. And it's very different. And it's I was like, I've never heard of this before. But it's true.
So basically they created their own haunting.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And then they built these stories. And, just like, we could do that. We could just say, hey, this place is haunted. And then we tell a group of people. So what are they thinking? As soon as they go in, if we give them a name, they're going to go for that name. Mm-hmm. And then they're going to try to investigate that name. And then whatever they get through their recording, they're going to swear up and down that's who it was. Or a trigger object, that's who it was. If your K2 goes off, it's something. Something we did years ago with the K2, and I always share this, is, we investigate late at night. So if there's a semi going by, or if a police cruiser is going by, there's CB radios. We'll call those K2s to go off the RF. So what I did is we went to Harbor Freight years ago and bought an RF detector and Velcroed it right onto the K2. So if the RF goes off, that could be cell phones, anything.
Right.
And then if the K2 goes off and the RF don't, then we want to scratch our head and go, we have something here. So that's something. They're like $14.
I'll have to check into that.
You can go on Amazon or something and find an RF detector. It's a little handheld RF detector. It just picks up radio frequency.
Okay.
So yeah, that's something that we always use. People are like, what is that on your K2 when we do public hunts? Well, I'm going to explain what that is. Oh, you've done this for a long time. Yeah, this helps.
Have y'all ever came across any haunted objects?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You want to share one, Patty?
Well, there's one sitting in the garage that I thought you said you were getting rid of, actually.
No, I'm gonna take it back. I'm afraid to get rid of it. We actually have our friends own Buckeye Charm. If you have watched Ghost Nation and Unholy Haunting, that's the one that I put their shop on the show. Jason, before they took Ghost Hunters back. Well, they get these antiques. People drop off stuff. Well, his wife and his daughter were in the shop. Someone dropped off this 1970s suitcase, and they were in there, and they said they heard the awfulest noise around the suitcase. So they moved the suitcase. Go back to working, doing what they're doing. A couple hours later, the same noise from the suitcase. He gets home from work. The suitcase is sitting outside. What's going on with the suitcase? Did somebody buy it? No, there's something attached. Call Lee, get him out, tell him to take this. So I have it in the garage. We actually did an investigation on TikTok with it, last year. And we were getting some crazy stuff. I was going to get rid of it, but I'm like, no, I'm just going to give it back to Adam and to be safe. So, yeah, so we had that. I don't think I've had any other. Have you had any? You're an antique collector, so I'm sure.
So I do have a doll. I call her Pammy, and I actually acquired her from a haunted location, and I investigated her and have gotten some crazy evidence off of her. I have a video on TikTok. Yes. She says my name, and I ask her if she wants me to keep her, and she says no. It's just clear as day.
She told you no. You don't. She don't want you to keep her.
Yes. So
Did you ask her where she wants to be?
I did not. So I need to reinvestigate her and do that. She's actually sitting in my china cabinet here to my left here. Yeah, my left. So she's one of my favorite haunted objects that I have.
Wow. She goes, no, I don't want you. Well, she's straight up.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you know what, though? I tell a lot of residentials that too. Like, it goes down to when we investigate homes, they're like, well, especially Victorian homes, I smell cigar smell. Okay. So when we get there, we do a preliminary. We like to meet them so they know who we are and who we like to know who they are. Plus, we want to look at their atmosphere, make sure everything's good before, we tell the team, hey, we got this investigation. We're going to schedule it for this weekend. Does this work for everybody? So we're there, and I rub the wood. And then husband's like, what are you doing? Well, this is a Victorian home. There was a lot of probably cigar smell and pipe smoking here, and that all will be saturated into the wood. So if you do that, you're probably going to smell that. So sure enough, they never thought about that. And I was like, yeah, I said, wood absorbs energy. I was like, I shared, something to this one lady one time. I was like, yeah, I can do a recording right now of me and you talking in this room and come back 5 days later and record, not saying that, and probably pick your voice up and my voice. No way. I'm like, because wood absorbs energy. And she goes, okay, that's creepy. But then, you also get these investigations, and I don't know if you've ever got any of these, to where, like I said earlier, people love the shows. So they have something going on in their home. So when you show up as a team to help this family, because when they tell us they have children involved, they're having a party. Like, more people are showing up. They're ordering. They come right over to us before we even get set up and say, "Hey, what do you guys like on your pizza?" and stuff like that. And I'm like, "What are you doing?" Because our friends. I invited some of our friends because it is so cool to actually have a paranormal investigator here to investigate the house. And I'm like, so we're a dog and pony show now. So I'm like,
that never ends well, and it pisses me off to no end. So we have a request to see Pammy. Can she come out?
Yes.
Oh, she did. Yeah. Show the doll.
Oh my, she's big.
So this is Pammy.
Oh, good Lord.
Hello, Pammy. Oh, she has a
And-
purse and everything. Cute.
Yes.
Well, let's see what she does if she looks at ours. Liza Jane.
Huh.
Oh, wow. There
So
she
now,
is.
where did
Pammy.
you get her? Like, where did she
Yeah,
come
you
from?
So I actually acquired her from Octagon Hall.
Oh, really?
Yes. So they actually had like a little antique store at one time. They don't do this anymore. But years ago, they had a little antique shop that was set up. And I asked her, I said, where'd she come from? And they're like, we really don't know. And so I was like, okay. But the reason that I actually got her was I had a doll that was exactly like her when I was growing up. I was 4 or 5 years old and I had gotten this doll. And I had an experience as a child with her. My grandfather had came over one day and he was an evangelist preacher. And he came in, he sat down on the couch. Pammy, not this doll, but it was actually called Pamela, the living doll is her real name. So that's why I call her Pammy. But the doll that I had then was sitting on the couch, and she actually takes little tapes in the back of her. And if you put batteries in her, she'll read the tapes. So I had Pammy sitting on the couch, and all of a sudden she starts talking. And my grandfather was like, picked the doll up, went in there to my mom, and my dad was like, you got to get this doll out of this house. This is evil. Like, no. And they're like, oh, no, she takes tapes. She's supposed to do that. But then when they look at go to show the back of her, she had no tape in her and no batteries.
What?
Yes. So when I saw Pammy, I was like, I've got to have her. Like, I have to have her. And so Pammy came home with me. So
Roger said, thanks for showing the doll. Now, does
No
that
problem.
take a cassette tape as well?
Yes.
Okay. So could you just put any kind of, is it, remember like the Teddy Ruxpin doll?
Yeah. Yes. So she is a little different. So I'll open the back of her up and show you.
If it starts playing, so help me Jesus.
She has no batteries in it. So,
But if she does. Oh, okay. Wow.
Huh.
so it's like a special kind of cassette tape.
If she turns her head and looks at you and goes, hi, Kimmy, I'm like, whoa.
Right. I hope she does.
My
Maybe
mom's
we'll capture that on video, you know.
Oh, got another question. Did you ever go to Jack Cole Road?
So I have been close to Jack Cole Road, but I have not actually investigated Jack Cole Road yet.
What's the story behind that?
If you have the hookup for that, let me know, because I know it's private property, and if you know how I can get over there to that would be very helpful. So Jack Cole Road is one of the most haunted roads in Alabama.
Really?
Yes, and it is actually not far from where I'm at now. And they say that there was a witch, the 1800s, early 1900s, that lived there. And like 45 people over an amount of time, I think it was 45, around that number, died over an amount of time on this road. And just very strange occurrences have happened. They believe that there's been alien activity out there. There's been Alabama White thing, like we were talking about before, activity out there. And they say that it's all due to the witch that lived there, and they found her in the woods. There also has been a missing person that a few years ago, they still have not found this woman that disappeared like right next to Jack Cole Road. So there may be some link to that as well. So there's more to this story. I don't know all of it.
The Bryson Hospital in Tuscaloosa.
Are you talking about Bryce Hospital, Madison? I've not been to Bryce Hospital. I definitely want to go to the old Jemison Center out there. I've not been there yet, though, but I've heard some people that have been out there, and they say that it is fantastic and they get some great evidence.
Yep, she said yes.
And it really sounds like we need to head south.
Yeah, it sounds like we're going to have to. We got a lot of field trips to go to.
Yep.
Yeah, because it's when we drove through Alabama to go to Gulf Shores. We stayed on that side. I loved it. The kids were asleep. It was early in the morning, and I was like, "This is so beautiful down here." Now, there's another place too that because when I've not been to, but I want to go to, and I was telling Patty Saturday on the way to Kentucky to our presentation, I would love to go to New Orleans. I've never been. Spend a couple days, research more of the voodoo stuff. I want to learn more about that stuff. I want to be fascinated. And then do some paranormal, maybe hit some plantations, do some tours. Of course, the food.
Eat some mufaladas.
Yes.
All the good stuff, right?
Yes.
So
if you go, there is 2 places that I recommend. The Magnolia Mansion is one of them.
Yeah, heard about it.
The Haunted Hotel on Ursulines. It has the Axeman murders, and I've investigated both of those places, and I've gotten incredible evidence on both of those. And you can actually stay overnight at both of those locations.
Nice. Yeah, those seem like that's a place I would like to go to. Not, in the very, very prime summer, but maybe early spring or something like that.
Yeah, it's hot down there all the time.
Yeah, I want to go when it's a little cooler outside.
Yes.
But we definitely need to get over to you next year.
Yes, I've got some cool places for sure.
Yeah, I would love to check out some cool locations over there where you are, for sure. Kemmi, where can people find you?
I'm on TikTok. It's Kemmi's Haunted Adventures. I also have another page that is Haunted Stories with Kemmi. And that is non-investigation. It's just the ghost stories itself, because I know some people just want to know the story behind the stuff. So I've made 2 separate pages, so you can check me out either place. And then I also have an Instagram. It's Kemmi's Haunted Adventures, and then also on Facebook.
There you go, guys. Because I have I run the show through Spotify, YouTube, the paranormal page, and my personal page. So. Guys, look her up. Kemmi, I want to thank you so much for coming on tonight. It was
no problem.
I know we went over the time I said, but everybody seems to ask a lot of questions. Lisa, thanks. She said she enjoyed the show right there.
Awesome. Thanks, Lisa.
She's a sweetheart. Follows us, so I'm sure she's following you now.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank y'all for having me on. I
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll definitely get together and set up something in the future to come out and investigate. That'd be fun.
Sounds great.
All right. And Madison, she loved it. Hi, Madison. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Madison.
And I just went and followed your Insta.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cool. And well, thanks again, Kemmi, for coming on. And guys, have a great week. Enjoy your week. Because the week flies and the week slows down and then the weekend speeds up super fast because, of course, time off, we don't get much of that, do we? Always keep looking into the unknown, guys. See ya.
Bye, guys.
All right, babe. Another week. Stay tuned next week, guys. We will have Teresa with Trips Paranormal. And again, thanks again. Anything you want to exit with, Patty?
Yeah, no, just, thanks to everyone for chiming in. Adding to the conversation is always awesome. And we look forward to it again next week.
Yep. Have a good night, guys. See you later.
See ya.